Hello and welcome to another Sonic State review. My name's Tosh from Wish Productions and today I'm going to be taking a look at Splice.com. So what exactly is Splice? Some of you may already have heard of it. I had in the context of an online collaboration platform. It is that, but it's also much more. If we go to Splice.com, you need to sign up. It's free to sign up. You just give yourself a username and password. Once you go in there, you enter at this dashboard. Now, the website is organized along these lines. You've got studio, community, sounds, and plugins, and that broadly describes the services it offers. Let's take a look at Splice Sounds first, as it's the newest feature. This is a paid part of the site. You subscribe to it. It's $7.99 a month. And that gives you 100 credits, and those credits can be exchanged for samples. And you have this enormous sample library. It's over 700,000 samples at the moment, and it's growing. In the time I've been using Splice, it's grown. So you've got this huge resource that you can pick a mix from, because the problem with sample packs before is that you may get a pack which had 1,000 samples in it, and you may use a handful of them. Whereas this, you can take exactly what you want from a whole variety of packs, and get good value really from it. Now, in order for this to work well, what you need is, especially with such a large sample library, is a really good navigation system and good integration with your DAW. So they've addressed both of these aspects. And if we look at the sample navigation, on the Splice Sounds page, when you land on it, you get, first of all, these browse packs by genres. You've got different sounds up here. Roll down, you've got artist repacks. Now, a repack is just a way of organizing a whole load of samples. So famous artists, popular artists have put together their favorite samples. It's a great way of getting a particular sound, for example. You like the way someone's tracks sound, check out one of their repacks, and you go in there, and these are the samples themselves. And you can browse just by clicking on them or using your cursor keys to scroll through. Very quick and easy. You find stuff you like, you can heart it, and that'll put you in your likes folder. So it makes it easy to find stuff and you want to download something, just click on the download button. You'll use one of your credits and it'll become available for you to use on your local machine. You notice the Splice client fires up here again. On the Sounds tab, this shows you all the samples that you've downloaded, and they all live here on the local machine. Now, if I click on that, show in Finder, Splice creates a folder on your machine where it stores all the samples that you're using. It also stores any projects that you download onto the machine. Now, you don't have to keep all your projects in the Splice folder, I should stress, because you've got the option in Preferences Sync to choose how Splice synchronizes. So you can choose to have it just work with stuff in the Splice folder, or to ask to sync any new projects created anywhere on the computer. So you've got a lot of control over that. But in terms of sounds, that's where you'd find them. And if you get a whole list of everything you've downloaded there. They're working on making it more organized in future, but you can search within there, so you can narrow it down to find sounds that you like, and then you can just organize them like that. And then in terms of actually using them, it's simply a case of dragging and dropping. So let's take that loop. There we go. And there it is, ready to use in my DAW. It's very, very simple. Couldn't be easier, really. Let's go back to the browser. So as I was saying, you've got this massive library of samples and various ways of getting through it and organizing it. So, for example, there's all the tags up here to narrow down your searches. This is for one-shots, I think, and this is for loops. And you can create what are called repacks. So these are just ways of organizing your samples, and you can add samples from the library to your repacks. And you can also make public your repacks, so it's a good way of showing off your curational skills, and you get a bunch of samples together that you like, share it with the community. So back to this project, I've used a whole load of Splice Sounds actually within this. That's how this actually started off. So for example, here's some guitar shots. Over here I've got some Latin percussion loops. I've got conga bongo loop, guiro and timbales. What else have I been using? There's a nice Rhodes pad that I mashed up a little bit there. There you go. And over here we've got some little vocal shots. So there we go. That's the Splice Sounds library, and it's I think it's a very good service, really. The fact that you can just pick and mix from different packs, and you've got very high quality samples there. Lots of big names from the sample business and loop business are represented, and it's something that's constantly growing and evolving. So it's a good way to keep up to date with the latest sounds as well. So stuff that people are using out there. You can stay up to date with it all. So that's Splice Sounds. Now let's take a look at the core functionality of Splice. So under Studio, what you've got is a backup and version control service, as well as the ability to remotely synchronize your projects. So I can upload DAW projects that I'm working on from my local machine into the cloud, and it will keep track of changes, so I can save, I can version control effectively. I can then download those projects to any machine. So if I'm on the road and I want to work on a project, I can download it onto that machine, then load it back up into the cloud and keep track of everything I'm doing. The other aspect is you've got a community collaboration platform here. So you can share your music with other people. You can see what other people are doing. You can create releases publicly to the Splice community, and learn from other people as well. You've got Splice Sounds. Now this is a subscription service, so you pay monthly, and what it gives you is access to a massive sample library of loops, one-shots, hits, everything from a wide range of styles. And the final part of the service is the plugin shop. So here you've got plugins, virtual instruments from a variety of manufacturers, all brought together in one place where you can browse, listen to, and buy if you want to. So let's go back to the start. Splice.com, you've signed up, you've entered. You interact with Splice via the website, but you also need to install the local client. So this is a little application that runs in the background, and that takes care of managing any samples that you might download onto your machine, and the synchronization between projects on your local machine and projects up in the cloud. So basically the backup and version control. So if we get stuck into that, when you go into splice.com, you land on the dashboard, and this is kind of a news feed showing you all your activity, as well as announcements from the community. So for example, here's a remix competition that's going on, and you can click through and get to that. So it's just, putting all the information in one handy place. Let's go into the Studio tab. So like I mentioned, this is where you store your projects. Now, getting a project into Splice is very straightforward. Once you've installed the client, it really takes care of most of this for you. So if I, for example, go to Ableton. Now, Splice interacts with your DAW, but at the moment they only support a handful of DAWs. You've got Logic, Ableton, GarageBand, and FL Studio. That list is increasing, so at some point, hopefully you're going to get Pro Tools and Cubase and a range of other DAWs, but for the moment those four are supported. And what that means is that when you're working with your DAW and you go to save, Splice will interact and do the synchronization to the cloud. So here's a little project I've just thrown together, a little beat we got going on. I haven't saved it yet, so if I do go to save it, I'll get the standard Ableton dialog window. So let's call this a new project, Beans 1, for want of a better title. Now what's going to happen is that Splice is going to jump in, and it's going to ask me if I want to synchronize. So here we go, and say we do synchronize, and what it's going to do is upload it to the cloud. So I can put a little description here, first draft, say submit. Now what that does is that now means if I go to my studio area, doesn't always show up immediately. Let's just bounce through. There we go, beans. I click on beans, and there it is. Now I can choose to download that again from the cloud and work on it. And if I go back to Ableton and I make a little change like that, and I do a save, it's going to tell me Splice is syncing, and I can attach a little description, little change. And then if I go back to the main site, there it is, version 2's appeared. So I'm already getting, you know, a timeline of my edits to the project. And it's very quick because it's not uploading the entire project each time. It's an incremental backup, so just saving the changes. So it makes it very efficient. If we go back to, say, another project that I've been working on for a while, you can see we go down to version 1, show you the other 16 versions. And anytime I can go to any version and I can say I wanted to start this again, I can just click open in Ableton and it will download that version to my machine and run it, so I can work with that version. And just to illustrate that process, let's take this track, version 27. So this is the latest one that we've been working on. And if I just do open in Ableton, Splice jumps in to tell me that it's opening, and then we wait for a few things to happen, and there we go. There's the project. Ready to go. Now I make some changes, I save it, and it will create a new version back up in Splice. So it's very well integrated with it, or very easy to use in that respect. The next aspect that I want to talk about is the collaboration aspect. So what you can do is any project that you're working on, you can go to the collaborators tab and you can add a collaborator. So you can see here I'm working with Nick, that's his username Snick, and that's me Widge there. If I want to add someone else, I just put their username or email address, and it'll send them a notification and give them access to the project. So they can then come to the timeline, download any version, work on it, and upload it back to the cloud. One thing to note, what I've realized, is it's a sequential process. You can both take out the same version and work on it, and you could both upload it, but there's no way of merging all your different changes together as you would get in a true version control system. So you have to be aware of that, and really the workflow is sequential. You download it, work on it, upload it, someone else takes it, works on it, uploads it, and that way you can keep up to date. Obviously there's some workarounds, like you could pull tracks out of the projects on your machine and blend them that way. So it's just something to be aware of. So this track I've been working on with Nick. So he's added some bits and pieces, and this is another aspect of the DAW integration I'd like to talk about. What Splice does is, in the browser, it can interpret the files, either from Ableton, Logic, GarageBand, or FL Studio, and show you the contents of the individual tracks. It doesn't actually play the audio in those tracks, but it will show you which regions are active and allow you to comment on them at any point in the timeline. So I've uploaded a bounce, a mix down of the track, and you'll see as it plays, different comments come up. So these are comments I've added. And over here, Nick was working on it, and he said, chuck with the bongos, congas here. So it's a good way of communicating your ideas and, you know, being able to pinpoint exactly what it is you're talking about when you're collaborating over a piece of work. So really, really good, really well done, I think. Another way that you can collaborate, and this leads me nicely onto the community tab, is you can create a release. Now a release is a public version of your project. If I just click on that, you can say, see, I've already created a release of this track, and what that means is that anyone in the community can now search for it. So say something, and there it is, and they can take that and start working on it. So if you want to create a release, it's very simple. If you go to the track that you're interested in, a particular version, create a release, you get this little dialog. You can add some artwork, tag it, change the bounce on it. You can even upload stems so people can work on it without having to have the same plugins as you, and then release the track. Now I've already created this release, so I'm not going to do this right now. And then that's available to the community. So if you are a Splice user or thinking about using it and you want to try it out, why not join in, go to the community, search our track and have a go and have a play around with it. Another way that you can collaborate, and this leads me nicely onto the community tab. This tab gives you access, like I say, to the public side of Splice. And what you've got there is other users, they put their projects up if they want to collaborate or share them with the world. You've also got things like remix competitions. For example, this one at the moment. You can download the stems to this track, do your remix, submit it, get it judged, and perhaps you can win something. Here are the prizes. And another thing I like about the community is you can learn. So you can see here, people are putting comments about what they're doing in their track, and you can get an insight into people's production techniques. And I've also seen people upload templates of popular tracks to show how the arrangement works. So you can get a lot of information out of these things. And of course, you can download these public projects and see in detail what people are doing and what plugins they're using and how they're shaping their sounds. So it's a great resource all round, really. Within the community tab, in terms of organizing yourself, you can explore, you can look specifically for the contests that are running at the moment. You can manage your own releases. You can see tracks that you've spliced. Now, splicing is when you find a community release and you want to do something with it, you splice it. So you click the splice button, and that means it gets copied over to your project area in Studio, and you can work on it. So, for example, this track, there it is, 127 BPM. So I can play with that and do my own versions and release it back into the community if I wish. So great platform for interacting and working with random strangers. Okay, the final aspect to look at is the plugins area. So we've got a whole load of plugins from various manufacturers, and they're all brought together in one place. So you've got virtual instruments, effects, you've got obviously the big names like Native Instruments, Waves, FabFilter, and you can browse by, what's popular, what's free, because everybody loves a freebie, what's paid. And then there's plugins that I've actually downloaded, and it allows you to see what you've bought or got for free, and you can jump to the latest installers for those. And by way of a shop window, it's quite nicely done because you can find something that you're interested in. You can search for a plugin. Let's see, filter. What do we get? Let's go for this one. And what it gives you is a whole load of information about that plugin. So you've got description, its usage in the last 3 months, tracks that are using it, so you get to hear it in action, videos about the plugin, user comments. Some of them have links to reviews. So it brings together in one place a lot of different information. And then if you're interested in buying it, you can either click through to the manufacturer's site, or in the case of some plugins, they're sold directly, like this one, from Splice. And here, there's a bit more information on this one where you can see articles there as well. So it's a really good service in that it's a good way to manage your plugins, obviously, and to find out about new ones and who's using what and how they're getting certain sounds. And that's really, it's a kind of holistic thing that Splice brings it all together. So when you're in the community area, for example, here's we'll go back to this track. You can see here it's showing you what plugins are being used, so you can go and get involved with that. I hope that's given you a good overview of Splice. There's quite a lot to it, a lot more than I thought initially. As you probably guessed, I'm a bit of a fan. I wasn't completely convinced when I started using it, but after spending a few weeks with it, I think this is a really good service. I mean, notwithstanding that for free you get unlimited backup and storage of your files, which is worth it straight away. But then the community and sharing aspects and the ease of collaboration with other people is absolutely brilliant. And one thing I didn't mention earlier is in order to keep track of things that are going on, so if you've got a few people working on a project, every time someone uploads a change or makes a comment, you'll get an email notification. So you can stay up to date with everything that's going on. I think the sample library service is brilliant. I think, being able to pick and mix like that is great. It's a really good value, especially if you're someone who uses a lot of samples. And it's worth pointing out that this part of Splice can be used with any DAW, not just the ones supported in version control. On the downside, what would I say? The sequential parallel workflow thing that I mentioned earlier, you just have to be careful, that if you've got multiple people working on the same version, that you do it in sequence, otherwise there's no way of merging your changes together. Things like the DAW integration, obviously for a lot of people, they're not going to be able to join the party because the DAW isn't supported, so Pro Tools and Cubase, for example. But hopefully that's something that will change in the coming months. The DAW integration isn't perfect as well. There are things like alternatives in Logic Pro X. It won't support that. It will just create a whole new project if you create a new alternative. But then alternatives are a kind of version control anyway, so you can choose which way you want to work. Another thing I noticed that using two machines, so it's been great remote syncing. I've got a studio machine working on a project, and then when I'm out and about, I can download that project onto my laptop. If I've got those two machines open at the same time with Splice running, the Splice client running, if I download a project onto one, it automatically downloads it onto the other, which isn't necessarily something I particularly want to happen, but asked the developers about it, and they assured me that was expected behavior, but I personally wouldn't expect that. And that's really it. There's overall, I think it's a great product, and I hope that's given you a taste of it, and it's something you might want to try. If you do want to get involved and collaborate, well, you can either message me, I'm Widge on Splice, or you can search for that track that I showed you, and you can splice it and get involved that way. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next review. Thanks.